In this unit, we talk about the relevance of human capital information and thus intellectual capital, which has been recognized since the 1960s. Moreover, from the strategic perspective, intellectual capital is employed both to create and use knowledge to enhance firm value. Intellectual capital is useful to understand the performance of a company. However, in the early days, what was missing at that stage was a technology able to measure, report, and manage these intellectual capital aspects. During the 80s, the world's economy transformed from industrial to knowledge-based, where wealth is created by developing and managing knowledge resources, which implies that the most relevant resources are intellectual capital ones. This transformation magnifying the need to capture the contribution to the creation of wealth, more recently referred to as value, which refers to intellectual capital performance. There is overall consensus in stating that intellectual capital is instrumental to the determination of enterprise value and national economic performance. However, the burden to measure the monetary value of human capital has represented a major limitation, and it has not found acceptance within the financial reporting models. As a consequence, there has been a growth in specific intellectual capital statements to supplement annual reports or separate reports, or the use of annual reports to disclose non-financial information about intellectual capital. To measure and disclose external information with reference to intellectual capital aspect, as knowledge resources are key aspect in creating value in the knowledge economy, most of the intellectual capital disclosure literature applied SVIBI's 1997 tripartite intellectual capital classification framework or its variants. Based on that, the intellectual capital classification outlines employees' competence, internal structure, and external structure. In summary, SVIBI points out the meaning of these three aspects. Employee competence represents the capacity to act in different contexts to create tangible and intangible assets, highlighting that it is impossible to conceive an organization without people. This is particularly true in knowledge organization. Internal structure is regarded as including patent, concept, models, computer, and administrative systems. These features are generated by employees but are owned by the company. The organizational culture belongs to this category too. Finally, the external structure is made up by the relationship created with the company stakeholders, brand, trademarks, as well as the company reputation and image. All these aspects can be ever-changing. Other popular classification of intellectual capital models are suggested by many other authors. Among them, it is worth mentioning the one by Edison Malone in 1997 with the Scandia Value Scheme. One of the most accepted definitions of intellectual capital has been issued by Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in 1999. It understands intellectual capital as the economic value of two categories of intangible assets of a company, organizational capital and human capital. In this classification, structural capital indicates proprietary software system, distribution network, and supply chain, while the concept of human capital refers to human resources within an organization, such as staff resources and resources external to the organization, like customers and suppliers. Later, Guthrie and Petty modified the intangible assets monitor, outlining the following categories. Internal refers to organizational capital. External refers to customer capital. And employee competence refers to human capital. These authors consider how intellectual capital creates value, leading to the need to information capital market and other stakeholders of these contents. They made the invisible visible. There are many other different definitions for intellectual capital. Domain's definition, stated in 2016, which slightly changed Stewart's 1997 original one, replacing wealth with value, is Intellectual capital is the sum of everything everybody in a company knows that gives it a competitive edge. Intellectual capital is intellectual material, knowledge, experience, intellectual property, information that can be put to use to create value. The reasons for this replacement are that most of intellectual capital researches, practitioners, and authors refer to value creation rather than wealth creation. Not always is it possible to use wealth as a measurement unit for intellectual capital or for the output of managing intellectual capital. Thus, Domeij argues that the proposed change is useful to the way researchers and practitioners apply the intellectual capital concept. Then, to define value, which does not relate only to money, value is understood in 4 ways: monetary, utility, social, and sustainable value. While during the 80s, the 90s, and even later, many attempts have been made to understand what intellectual capital is and how to outline technologies useful to measure, report, and manage intellectual capital aspect, a general agreement has been currently achieved among the 3 main categories that contribute to the creation of value, which are human, structural, and external categories. Also, nowadays, the theme of intellectual capital is gaining momentum because of the International Integrated Reporting Framework, the latest one issued in 2021, which makes reference to 6 capitals. 3 of them are physical capitals, i.e. financial, manufacturing, and natural capitals, and the other 3 capitals aligning with the intellectual capital model, where human capital refers to the same human capital, social relational capital to relational capital, and finally intellectual capital to structural capital. If we consider the 6 capitals, and particularly the non-physical ones, we understand that those non-physical capitals are significant for the impacts on us on a day-to-day basis and how the different aspects of intellectual capitals contribute to the value creation.